What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mythic Conversations. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, whether you're tuning in live, whether you're catching it on replay, whether you're here for the first time, or whether you're here with me every single Wednesday night for the weekly Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legions and Four Horsemen Studios, everything Four Horsemen Studios. That's what we talk about on this show. I am your host, Jeremy Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer. I also have the distinct privilege of being the digital marketing manager for Four Horsemen Studios, which means everything that you see at sourcehorseman.com is content that I help to bring you. I also post a lot of my own work. If you want to see that, you can certainly do it. Best place to do so is on my Instagram page. That's at Mythic Customs, all one word. And of course, I am here every Wednesday night, or almost every Wednesday night, live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for the weekly Legion show, where we talk about Legions news and what's going on. We talk about Legions customizing, and we have a conversation. It is called Mythic Conversations because I want to hear from you. Hit me up in the chat along the way. As we progress through the evening, I will try to go back and check that chat and answer questions throughout the night. So it's a Christmas week, pretty awesome. I'm actually off for the rest of the year, so I'm looking forward to some time with family, some time for the holidays, some time to get some projects done. Love this time of year. I love the holidays. So I'm excited for what it has to bring. If you missed it, if you haven't seen it yet, this past Saturday, the one that just passed, I did, a really fun broadcast with my friends from Team Wolf King, the second annual Team Wolf King holiday reveal special and holiday special and reveal extravaganza. That's what it was. It's a mouthful. So that is on my channel. If you want to check that out, we had a really good time talking. It was, besides myself, Len from Wolf King Customs, Lord Stephen Bishotti, ML Wickman, and Walter DeMarco. Just like last year, everyone joined on. We have a really good time talking about the holidays and showing some really fun reveals that you can expect in the new year. So check that out. Tonight, we're going to actually talk about All-Stars 4. So I kind of feel like All-Stars 4 I don't want to say it flew under the radar. I mean, people love it. It got a lot of attention, but it started shipping right around the time that, Mythic Weekend was coming. So with all the reveals from the Poxus wave, that became everyone's focus. And then right on the tail end of that, we obviously got the Krampus figure from Figura Obscura, and everyone was focused on that. So that was just a huge, that took so much of what people were talking about in the Legions community. And I kind of feel like the All-Stars 4 shipments that went out, while we saw people posting them, we saw people appreciating them, they didn't get the same kind of attention that I think most shipments usually get. I know that I haven't given it a lot of attention. I did do an unboxing special here on my channel. There was one day where I just opened them all up and I just kind of impromptu spent some time, I think on like a Saturday afternoon, just sharing my thoughts. But tonight I really want to look at customizing because I haven't done that. When All-Stars 3 came out, I actually did this fun All-Stars 3 challenge where I created customs only using the parts found in the All-Stars 3 packages. I'm not doing that with All-Stars 4, but I am going to talk about some customs that I've done, some customs I've seen other people do, some ideas I have, and we're going to paint something live on the air this evening. Before I get to that, I will cover news. And actually, first, I'm going to look at what's going on. A lot of people saying Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, God bless. Same to all of you. Thank you for joining this evening. I see the non-drinking cup. Yes, this is the non-drinking cup. This is usually the heating stuff up cup, but tonight this is a little bit of water to clean brushes cup. Hope we see some live LBCs. I've got some LBCs for you, Curtis. Don't you worry. A Christmas LBC. Greetings from Europe. Greetings, Figure Out 2020. Okay, awesome. So, news going on. So I just mentioned the Team Wolf King special. Wolf King Customs, their in-stock sale continues to go on. They actually dropped a whole bunch of new products and restocked products on the site. I say new products. They weren't new things. They dropped a whole bunch of items into the sale that weren't previously part of the in-stock sale. Those got added today. Actually, a lot of people are getting the mice kits in, and I know people that skipped it were regretting that. I heard a lot of people bummed about that. So the full kits are not available, but the mouse head, hands, feet, and shield, those are all available separately. Basically, it's just the mouse knight helmet that we didn't have any more of those, so they couldn't do full kits. But if you regretted not getting the mouse parts and you really want it now that you see people sharing theirs, those are available. In addition, a ton of other cool stuff is available there as well. Len did ask me to let everyone know that if you do place an order today through the weekend, because of the holidays, those will actually start shipping on Monday of next week. But it's been cool. All the other stuff, those shipments have gone out, so that's very, very cool. In addition, talking about shipments going out, if you saw Four Horsemen O'Clock this afternoon with Chris, George, and their guest Nolan, what they said was that I believe all the Krampus deliveries are on the way now. So all of the Krampus figures have shipped from the warehouse. I believe most of the All-Stars 4 figures have shipped as well. So if you're waiting on anything, those should be on the way. Very cool to see that. If you've been following the news at Legion Shop, we're not ending the year quietly. I will tell you that. We are ending the year just with dropping some fire. I mean, in the last week, we've made some huge announcements at Legion Shop. I think last week I talked about adding the new artist, Jeremy Wilson, who goes by Monster Creations. Jeremy is an incredibly talented artist. We showed his first piece last week. It was like a bald knight. And then over this weekend, we saw another head that he did. He calls it Mean Joe. It's a head that he sculpted specifically to use on Calavius. Of course, you can use it anyone you want, but he imagined it based on like 1970s football players. Super cool piece. I'll show that in a minute. But after that, after my show last week, or I should say since my show last week, we announced that Nate Barch has joined the lineup at Legion Shop, and we are now carrying his prints. So all of his amazing prints, or I shouldn't say all of them, we don't have every piece of art he's done, of course, but a number of amazing pieces of art. Lots of Mythic Legion stuff, as you'd expect. Also, we've got a Masters of the Universe piece he did and a couple Power Lords prints. We even have a really old print from Four Horsemen Studios that shows a lot of the pre-Mythic Legions characters and properties. We only have a few of those left, so those are going to sell out first, I assume. But super cool. Really, really excited to have Nate on board, not just to sell his prints, but we've got some other super cool stuff that we're cooking up with Nate that we cannot wait to show you. And then today we announced that Noah Pratt of Anything's Posable, that's his Instagram, he has joined the artistic team at Legion Shop. Noah does these incredibly cool dioramas. I've seen them online for years and been incredibly impressed, but I saw them in person at Legion's Con this year and was totally blown away. Especially, he does these spinner pieces where you buy this turntable from like Amazon. It's like a 6-inch turntable. You know, those things, you see a lot of people use them in photography and in action figure reviews where they put the figure on and it rotates it slowly. Well, those are cool, but they're just black and electronic. So he made these diorama pieces that go on top of it that they look absolutely gorgeous. You know what? Let me show it to you. Let me actually share the page here. So this is the Legion Shop Instagram page. If you're not following it, please, you're missing out. Shared these today. So this is what I'm talking about. These are the types of pieces that he does. And you can see this top piece is actually what rotates. And he's got a couple different styles of them. There's like a bit of a zoom in. You know, you can see this one is more recessed, and they're actually going to come with like a dummy block for the inside. So if you don't have the turntable rotator, it's not like you can't use this. You could just display it as is without the rotation feature if you chose that. So we've got a couple different looks here. The nature of these pieces, they take quite some time to produce. He can't produce them in large quantities. So we're literally going to have like one of each of these. They're going to go really, really fast. We can't restock them with the kind of speed that we restock other stuff, but we're thrilled to be able to not only have Noah on board, but to be able to add a new product category to Legion Shop with dioramas. So super, super excited about that. This is the head from Jeremy Wilson that I mentioned that we showed this this weekend. Like I said, when he reached out to me, he said, I want to do an alternate head or an unhelmeted head for Calavius. And I've seen a number of people do heads for Calavius. So admittedly, at first I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. If you want to give it a shot, go ahead. But I wasn't sure what he was going to do. And then when he threw this at me, I was blown away. And I loved the fact, I mean, I love talking about the creative process. And when Jeremy said to me that, yeah, you know, I was thinking about those football players of the 1970s, like they always looked so grizzled and just badass. And I immediately, the minute he said that, I knew exactly what he meant, what his inspiration was, and he totally captured it with this head. So this head is going to be offered at Legion Shop. At first, it'll be unpainted because we want to get those out quickly, but we've already lined up a painter to do this head as well as Jeremy's previous head that he showed. This was the first head that Jeremy showed for Legion Shop. Another really, really cool sculpture. Both of these heads will be offered unpainted. And I've already lined up Drew Grubbs to paint the versions for the store. If you've ever seen Drew's paint work, it is absolutely stunning. He does a lot of the dwarf pieces that we have at Legion Shop, and he totally kills it. Everyone who gets his pieces loves them. I cannot wait to see the work he does on these two pieces here. Additionally, the work of Nate Barch, I mentioned we've got his prints. These are just some of the prints, and these are actually kind of cut down a little bit. These are wider prints than we're showing here on Instagram. But lots of cool stuff. Like I said, we are ending the year not going out quietly, absolutely ending with a bang. Tons of great stuff coming out. Looking right now, I think we're going to probably do a sale drop on New Year's Day, January 1st. I think we're going to do a sale drop with a lot of this new stuff that we're going to be adding. So keep your eyes open for that. Last piece of news, the raffle for the Juston figure, Juston of House Valgard. You know, that is the tribute figure that was created by Four Horsemen Studios to benefit the family of Justin Johnson. I talked about that last week on the show, that raffle was going to be going live. That launched this past week. It goes until January 29th, I believe. All of this information is in the Mythic Legions Cabal, how to enter the raffle. I said on the show last week that I really wanted to hit 500 raffle tickets sold or raffle slots sold. I cannot believe, I'm so thrilled to announce that I heard from Anthony Houseel before tonight's show, they are already up to 550 slots sold. So that benchmark that I set for 500 totally blew it away. Thank you to everyone who has thrown their support behind this great cause. I guarantee you that Justin's wife, Mackenzie, and his children appreciate it so, so much. If you haven't backed it yet, even if you've got $5, that's the cost of one entry. Anything helps. Thank you for your support on that. I said 500. I really would love to see 500. Hell, we got 500. Let's go 1,000. I would love to see 1,000 slots sold in that. Is that aggressive? Absolutely. That's a lot of slots. But if I know the Mythic Legions Cabal, if I know the Legionnaires, I know that they can do it. Thank you again. Once again, Anthony Halcyon and Eddie Salvatore are running that. All that information is in the Cabal. The end date, Will, is January 29th, and the actual spin is going to be on the 30th. Very cool there. So some people say they've already entered. Thank you very, very much. So Sergeant Toyman says, been watching forever, but first time to catch you live. Super stoked. Created my first own custom Mythic figure. I think has never been done, but we shall see. P.S. Need that head sculpt. Not sure which head sculpt you're referring to exactly. But yeah, Sergeant, thank you very much for joining. And congratulations on your first Mythic Legions custom. Adrian Jones says, Drew is amazing. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. Yes, awesome. So very, very cool. So what I want to do tonight is we're going to talk about Mythic Legions All-Stars 4. For those that may not know, the All-Stars program approach waves, the All-Stars waves from Four Horsemen Studios are really unlike anything I've ever seen any other toy company do. So these are a way where they go back and they re-release figures that have been long sold out. In some cases, the figures that get re-released are selling for hundreds of dollars on the aftermarket. Not only does Four Horsemen Studios re-release them, they actually allow the fans to vote on which figures are going to make that wave. They've been doing this for a number of years. All-Stars 4 was the vote for that happened at the beginning of the year. Those just started shipping to everybody in the last month or so. So people are getting them in hand, and there's an interesting variety in this particular wave. And I'll bring back up at the start of the night, I had actually the cover for the show, and you can see them right here. There's actually 7 figures in the wave. There's also a troll. I'm not going to talk about the troll tonight. There's not a ton of customizations that people are doing with trolls. Basically, what people are doing is just repainting heads. Nikki Nicole Cheney has, done a ton of that, taking different heads and painting them for the different bodies. Immortal Collections also have a super, super cool custom troll head that we have at Legion Shop painted to match the stone troll. They also have it at their website, immortalcollections.com. They have that that's actually made for the green forest troll. So that is super, super cool. I'm not going to talk about that figure tonight, but I am going to talk about all of the others. So I'm going to talk about the first one you see at that top row. That is Vetus. Yeah, I believe Vetus is how they say it. Tibius is next, Sir Owain, Scaphoid, and then at the bottom you have the 2 PowerCon debut figures, Mephitor and Bryophytus. So we're going to look at all of these today and just kind of talk about some customization options for them. It's an interesting wave. There's definitely some diversity in it. We do have 2 different skeletons. But they have different body kind of, at least, styles. The Tibius has, the armor, what I always call kind of the clean armor pieces. They're not like the spiky evil ones that you see on like the orcs. Whereas Scaphoid, the green skeleton, has that more spiky type armor. Also has that cloth tunic piece that is for the body. Then we've got a full knight in Sir Owain. And then we've got that Mercurian, that very Spartan type inspired character in Vetus that also has the bare arms and legs. And then, of course, The other two are total wild cards. We have the fully flocked Bryophytus, and then we have the Mephitor that is a goblin-sized figure. So we're going to look at all of those tonight. One piece of news I actually did forget to mention, and it's a piece of my news, so shame on me for not mentioning this, is if you saw my Instagram today, I posted this incredibly silly thing. This is a shirt design that I did. I call it the House of the Noble Pooh Bear. So sometime last year, I heard, or it might have been before that, I heard someone mention that they actually said House of the Noble Pooh Bear. And I thought it was a really funny name, and it got this idea in my head to actually take the faction symbol for the House of the Noble Bear and mash it up with Winnie the Pooh. I just did it for myself, just for the gag, just to scratch that design itch. But Retro Rags Limited, they are the official T-shirt provider of Mythic Legions, of Four Horsemen Studios. They are not only now selling the actual licensed shirts of the actual faction symbols and figures and all that, but they decided they wanted to kick off a new series of shirts from the Legions community that are called the Fan Art Series. So these are going to be shirts that are actually created by members of the community. They could be pictures of their own creations, their customs, things that they've designed, whatever. I'm super honored that they asked me to kick off that fan art series with this super silly design. Not gonna lie, it also helps that Eric Treadaway is a huge Disney fan, and he thought this design was super funny, and he wanted one. So that certainly helps. Guess what? I really wanted one too. Thrilled that they are going to be offering this. This is actually for sale right now. So if you want to buy one of these, first off, thank you. I appreciate it. You can do so at retroraglimited.com/noblepoo. That will bring you right to this t-shirt. In addition, they also do have all the other Legion shirts, so you can pick up those at the same time if you want to update your wardrobe and get some new Legions gear. Anyone that does order one of these super silly shirts, thank you very much. I appreciate the support. All right, cool. Forgot I had to mention that. Tony, how do we get in on the fan art? I do believe that they have a list of people that they've contacted that they want to work with. But if you actually have something you'd want to submit, that's all through Retro Rags. They handle that exclusively. So Retro Rags Limited, you can probably figure out their contact information right on their site if you're interested in that. Okay, so again, what I want to do tonight is look at these. And the first one I'm going to do, what I'm going to paint live, I'm going to have a couple coats on it. So I'm going to start by painting that. And then as it's drying and I'm waiting to do another coat, I'll talk about other stuff. And what I'm going to do is I actually have a Vetus here. So you can see that I took a Vetus figure and I spray painted the thing totally black. I don't dye figures. I wish I did, because it would have been awesome just to dye this whole thing. Because I just wanted him completely black. What I'm going to do with this figure tonight is I'm going to paint him like stone. So I've done this before. I've done a special before about painting stone, about doing gargoyles. I'm going to do something similar tonight. And the reason I'm doing this is I got this in my head years ago when I first saw the test shots that were available from Mythic Legions 1.0. I really wanted to get a Vetus test shot because it was all in gray and it looked like a stone statue. And I really liked the idea of this like stone warrior, right? So I never did that. I never got the test shot and used it as a stone warrior. And all of the Mercurian figures are actually kind of expensive, right? Vetus, Vetus, Deltagar, Romulus, those are all hard figures to come across. To buy one of those and just totally paint it black so I can paint it like stone just wasn't financially intelligent. But with the release of All Stars 4 and doing this show tonight, I figured, you know what? This will be a lot of fun. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different that I've never done before. That's going to make it fun tonight. I'm going to show you the kind of style, the look that I'm going for here. So doing some research, I found this photo. And when I did my gargoyles, I literally just used like a grayish color, which I'm going to start with here. For this, I want to give it a slightly different look. I don't just want it to be that gray dry brushed color. If you look at this photo here of the thinker, it's got almost like a bluish greenish type tint to it. Or tint's probably the wrong word. That's what I want to go for. That kind of color is what I had in mind. So that's what I'm going to go for here. Yeah, Venus just in black looks pretty darn cool as is. So what I'm going to do is I've got them all based out. And just so you know, what I did was I did actually spray paint this with, I took it apart first. So I pulled the whole thing apart, sprayed it with black spray paint, and then I put it back together. And it was a mess because some of the parts on these figures, there's a lot of different kinds of plastic that are used in Mythic Legions, including the super flexible pieces for like the loin pieces and the waist pieces. Those tend to not take spray paint super, super well, at least not the spray paint that I use. So when I was putting this together, even just touching that, it was all coming off of my fingers. So what I did was, after I was done putting them together, I hit it with a little bit of black paint just to cover up the spots that I had, messed up. And then I actually hit it with a sealer. So even though I'm going to paint over it, I did hit it with some sealer just so it wouldn't be as tacky and sticky. And it feels better now. I'll hit it with another one later as well. So the color I'm going to use here is I'm going to use Vallejo 992 Neutral Gray. That's what I'm going to start with. And this is the same color that I've done in the past for my my gargoyles. Shake this up. So I'm just going to put some in my paint tray. And this is super simple. Like I said, the reason I'm going to start with this is just to get it out of the way so it can dry a little bit before I hit it with the next coat. So I've also got his shield and a spear here as well. And literally, for everyone that's ever seen me dry brush, all I'm doing, I dip the brush in, dried it off on that paper towel, and then I'm just lightly going to rub against this. And that's all I'm doing. I've talked about dry brush so many times. The brush has very little paint on it. All I want to do is catch some of those exposed surface areas, give a nice kind of very organic look. And again, all I'm doing is just lightly hitting it here. Dry brushing is nice, of course. I've said this so many times, but it's such an imprecise method that if you're newer, if your hands are shaky, it's okay. This will work for you. And then on this figure, I want to make sure that I don't have a lot of paint on the body as I do this. And again, I'm just hitting it. So this is just something, like I said, sometimes I have these ideas. I had this idea all the way back from Mythic Legions 1.0 and just never executed on it. So for all those people out there that are impatient to get these customs done, sometimes you got to play the long game. Sometimes you got to, wait till the parts are available that you want to use. Because I could have done this years ago. I could have gone out and spent, $200 and something on a Vetus or whatever to do this custom. But there's a point where you have to decide, like, you know what, is that really worth it to me? Especially for something like this where the parts they're all going to get painted black anyway. So it's not like I needed a specific color or something like that. And I'm just sitting here, just painting this. Super simple. So I'm going to start with this base color here. Get it all based out. And you see a lot of that black bleeding through, which is cool. That's what I want. That gives it almost that stone type look, in my opinion. But then I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some bluish, greenish type colors that's going to give me more of that different kind of stone look. And I've never done it. A lot of times if I'm trying a new effect, I actually will get a test piece. Like if I wasn't doing this live tonight and I kind of wanted to do this live without a net and not know what to expect just for the sake of entertainment. But in a real world setting, what I probably would do is take a piece that I'm not using. And this could be, a fodder piece from my bin that I've got a ton of, a piece of shoulder armor. I've got so much shoulder armor. Maybe I'm going to paint a piece of shoulder armor black to test this out. Or it could be a 3D part. A lot of times 3D parts that are kind of damaged, I'll use those as paint tests. So what I would often do is, paint one of those, the black base color, and then do all of this stuff on that, like try the gray base coat, try the different blues and everything to get the overall color that I want. Because painting Legions figures, they're not inexpensive, right? So there's a sense of worry about that. I don't want to mess it up. That's what a lot of new customizers, that's their big worry. I don't want to mess it up. So I'm afraid to do that. I'm afraid to mess it up. I always tell everybody, if you're going to be a customizer, you've got to be willing to make mistakes. You've got to be willing to mess up. That's okay. That's part of the fun. Some of the coolest customs I've done haven't come out the way that I intended them to, but through one reason or another, they came out the way they needed to. Happy little accidents, right? So that's what it's looking like so far. I've got this kind of grayish stone thing going on right now. I'm going to let it dry for a little bit, but one of the nice things you can do too is I did kind of a consistent coat over the whole body. So one of the nice things with dry brushing is, after it's dry, and it dries super fast, right? You can come back and you can hit certain parts again with this gray. And because it's like a second dry brush coat, there will be certain areas that will be a little bit darker because we don't want it to be fully consistent through the whole thing. We want there to be other areas that may be a little darker, some areas that are a little darker than others. So I like doing that and just coming back and hitting different pieces of it again. Gives it more of that organic type feel. And again, I'm doing this while I'm looking at the camera and talking to you because it's nice. It's an imprecise method. So this is just one example of what I'm doing today for All Stars 4. There's been a ton of super cool customs that I've been seeing people do. Some of the things I'm seeing people do are swapping parts, between different figures. Some of them are adding third-party parts. I've got a little bit of all of that to show you today. So I'll put that in there, get my fingers in. Very cool. Okay. So let that dry a little bit. Let's see. Some people have some questions here. Mindless Focus saying, I'm afraid all the paint's going to chip off the flexible pieces. Yeah, once you seal it, I don't tend to get that problem. I also don't move them very much. So, yes, Adrian, I did hear the main come out when I said customizer. I did hear that as well. I just kind of glossed over it and didn't address it, but thank you for bringing it up. So I'm going to show you a couple things that I've been seeing recently, and some of the things that I've done. So let's see, who do I want to start with? Let's start with Mephitor. Okay, so Mephitor, the little guy, the what do you call it? The Motu tribute type character. Super fun figure. The only goblin size, only 2.0 sized figure in the line. So I'm having some fun with that. One of the things I like about it is the colors, like the obnoxious colors, because almost all, like all the goblins, they're all the dark body colors, right? That's one of the reasons why I really like Thistlethorn, because Thistlethorn has that goblin size, but he's got totally different colors right out of the box. The green colors, the bright colors. So Mephitor with the oranges has kind of that going on for him as well that I really, really dig. I'll show you a picture here. I showed this, a couple weeks ago. My Mouse Ranger, obviously using my mice kits. Mephitor was the base figure that I used for that, specifically because of the orange. So I really like that a lot. Another thing that you can do with it, there's Legion Shop actually sells a skunk head and tail. I've seen people that are buying those specifically to put on Mephitor because the head, as cool as it is, it's Thistlethorn's head. So if they want a more unique head on it, I've seen them doing that. That's a lot of fun. But one thing I want to show you that I think is cool is using that goblin head. So using that black extra goblin head that it comes with, I think that that's really, really fun. And this is a super easy LBC that I put together in advance of this show. And it's actually something that I did something similar a while ago, while before this. So let me bring these images up here. So that custom on the left, that shadow goblin, that's actually something I painted a couple years ago, I believe now, live here on Mythic Conversations. I had an evening where I just once again was doing live customs on the air, live without a net, didn't know what I was going to do, and I ended up just painting a Goblin Legion Builder head black, and then I gave it that kind of face colorization. You can see here that if you've ever seen the Gorthok Shadow Orc figure, it's a black Shadow Orc and it's got those very distinct markings on it. So I customized this. I painted this to look like that Shadow Orc figure. So I was thrilled when they gave us that official head that came with Mephitor here. So what I did, very, very reminiscent of the custom I did in the past. The custom I did in the past has a number of different parts on it. But basically what I did was I took a Goblin Legion Builder body. That's what you see on the right. The first thing I did was I popped off the little shoulder armor pieces. The little at the shoulders, they have these little armor pieces. And I love, they just peg in, right? I love to pop them off because it makes the arms look even thinner than they are because it gets rid of that elbow piece. So I dig that a lot. I replaced the hands and the feet with some hands and feet from one of the actual orc hands and foot pack from the Irithyr wave. Even though those pieces are technically intended for 1.0 figures, I really love how they look on the goblins because I love the look of like oversized feet on characters. I love 1.0 chunky feet on goblins. So this I just think looks great. So the only paints on this figure, and I'll take it apart here a little bit. Give me one moment. The only thing I did on this was I painted the neck post black. I painted the hands and feet black, and that is it. I used one of my favorite pieces, this little cape piece, this rubbery cape piece. This comes from a Star Wars Black Series Kylo Ren. I've literally used this so many times. I should not be allowed to use it anymore because this is like the most LBC-est of the LBC things I do. Because every time I put it on something, I like how it looks and I use it so much. So I put it on there to give him that little different look. Pop his head on them, and then give him actually that green poison looking blade from a Scaphoid figure, another All-Stars 3 figure. This is a super, super easy custom that you can do. And you can take it a lot further, right? So if you don't have that kind of, scarf type looking piece, you don't need it. You could use the existing armor collar and the pauldrons that come with the Goblin Legion Builder. You could do something else. If you had like maybe a soft goods type robe, I love putting soft goods robes with hoods on goblins. I like to cut little slices in the sides of the hoods so their ears pop out. Little trick, when you do that, not only does it help hold the hood in place, but it also just gives it a different look because those ears pop out. super, super cool. I love doing that. So you can do a lot of fun things with this shadow goblin. You could even take it a step further if you wanted to paint those markings like I did on my original custom, so it actually more matches the Gorthok Shadow Orc look. You could totally do that as well. I chose not to do it here just to have a little variety and show a pretty simple looking one. So that's a super easy thing you can do with that extra goblin head. And if you open the Mephitor figure and display it as is, you will have that extra head anyway. So this is a nice way to use it. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at just some comments here. Okay, cool. No questions that I got to answer. Oh, so another one that I'll look at next, and let me stop sharing this. Another figure we'll look at next. Let's look at Sir Owain. So Sir Owain is, I've mentioned this before, I was surprised that he got so much love in All Stars 4. The reason for that is he was one of the least voted figures in All Stars 3. He was literally near the bottom of the pack. He was a very hard figure to locate. He's from, Mythic Legions 1.0. I've said this, that I think a lot of people initially skipped Sir Owain because in that Mythic Legions 1.0 line, Sir Owain is basically the Silver Knight with a number of paint applications. So in Mythic Legions 1.0, you could get the Silver Knight Legion Builder for like $18. You could get Sir Owain for $33. So I think early on, there were a lot of people that were like, they're essentially the same figure. I'm going to get the Legion Builder. So Sir Owain was not one of the super heavy voted ones or super heavy ordered ones in Mythic Legions 1, and then therefore was hard to find. Didn't get a lot of love in All Stars 3, got a ton of love in All Stars 4, which is super cool because he's a great, just kind of, I don't want to use the word generic looking knight, but he's a knight that he's not so stylized that he can't be anything but what he is. He's just got a look to him that fits into a lot of different displays in a lot of different customs. So a few things that I've done for him. One of the first things that I did was work on this helmet. So this is a custom helmet piece that was sculpted by Walter DeMarco of Mass Customs based on one of my designs, and it's available at Legion Shop. This one was actually painted by Melissa Somerville of Lady Tank Studios. Those are available. This is available painted and unpainted. So just doing that, just changing the helmet, totally changes the look of the character. And that's one of the things I love about Sir Owain, because there's a lot of providers out there. There's a lot of 3D print companies that do unhelmeted heads. Saba and Julie from Planetary Dog Toys, they've got like a whole series of heads that are, different helmets with flip down visors with different faces in it. They've got skeletons and orcs and ghouls and, humans. Those heads work great on a body like this. All these other providers, all of these people that are doing these unhelmeted heads, Von Berg Studios, Noble Bear Customs, My Action Figure Customs, they all have unhelmeted heads of just characters that go great on this. Even if you use the original helmeted head, one thing I see a lot of people do that's a lot of fun is they put an unhelmeted head on it and they have them hold the helmeted head, like cradle it under their arm. That looks great. Even something like a Magnus, I've seen people take a Magnus and they pop a Magnus on this body and it looks great as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with Sir Owain. Another thing that I see people do is swap out body parts. So check out this kind of pop and swap LBC from my friend at Dorklair. So Dorklair does these wonderful mashups. He has such a great eye for color that he takes these parts and he just combines them together. Now, I'm not sure which body parts he used here. They honestly could be Krampus. I think they might be Torian, just because I'm hoping he didn't pop a pot of Krampus yet. But either way, those black body parts, the chest, the arms, and the legs work really well with the blacks and golds and silvers in the actual figure. So something like that, a simple swap like that, he used the actual chest, right? Even if you used the Sir Owain chest, I think this would look really, really cool as well. I've also seen some people use skeleton parts. So we're going to talk about that too, where they actually pop skeleton limbs on Sir Owain and make him a skeletal knight. That's something you can totally do as well. So just doing some simple pop and swaps, I think would be cool. One thing that I thought would be a lot of fun for this show was just to show that a simple head swap can totally change the character. I took a Sir Owain and I took an extra head from a Tibius, so another All Stars 3 figure. Tibius comes with 2 heads. He comes with kind of the head that most people know him for, that has the 2 racing stripes, the red stripes on it. But then he also has a secondary head that's got no stripes on it, and it actually is the kind of head that has the movable jaw. So I thought it would be fun to take that second head and to paint that up to go on Tibius. So let's look at that. Find it here. Here we go. So this is one that I painted in advance of this. And basically all I did was I still wanted to maintain that kind of racing stripe type look. But because there's no red on this body, what I did was I took that extra Tibius head and I just kind of painted it up with black racing stripe lines. Those black designs, it almost ended up having almost like a jester-like look to the head, kind of like a Harlequin jester type look, but this is literally a 2-minute custom. Super, super simple, but makes a kind of fun look. Now, I could swap out, if I wanted to swap out all the skeletal limbs, I could do that as well. I could dirty up the body if I wanted. A lot of possibilities here, but even something like this, I almost think is fun because you don't know what's under that helmet. So even giving him a skull head and having him cradle the helmet, it basically alludes to the fact that under that helmet, he actually is a skeleton and he actually is dead. That's a lot of fun as well. Again, super, super simple things that you can do just by popping and swapping some heads. So let me stop sharing this. Let's get back to our paint job here. So this guy is pretty dry. So what I'm going to do here is I got a couple different blues to try to figure out what I want. So I've got this more gray blue color. I've got like a deep sky blue, which I think is going to be too light. But the one I think I'm going to go with here, I think I'm going to go with this one, this azure color. Azure, I don't know how to say that. I'm going to go with this one. It's got a little bit of a purplish in it. So what I could do is I could start with the weapon just to make it so if it's not what I want, I don't ruin the figure. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with the figure because that's more fun, right? So I'm really, really going to dry this one off here. Let's see. That looks cool. So I don't want this to be fully covered. I almost want, when you look at, stuff like this, it almost looks like it's weathered. It almost looks like the weather and the elements have kind of added those colors to it. I like even this, how it's starting to look so far. I love dry brushing on things like that helmet. There's so much detail in that helmet. And as I'm painting Vetus here, I'll go to him next. I'm seeing people have a blast with this figure, and it's because the Mercurials are super popular and have been super hard to find for so long, right? So people are finally getting their hands on these things, and I'm seeing lots of people do simple things, simple customs. When I did my review, my box opening special, I did this guy. So I took a Vetus and I combined it with pieces, the upper arms and legs from a Magnus. And I had a number of people that said, Jeremy, You made it so I have to get another Magnus or I got to get another Vetus. I've got to do this. This became a super popular pop and swap custom. There's zero paints on this. Well, there's paints on the custom axe, but this is literally just parts from a Magnus and a Vetus combined. So a lot of people did that super simple one, but I've also seen people going crazy with Vetus, right? And they're like doing full body repaints. I saw somebody painting him with like a whitish and gold color, which, oh, God bless you. I mean, I have painted white on figures. I've done like pearlescent armor. It is brutal. It is absolutely painstakingly brutal to do that. So, comes out cool, like looks great, and it's worth the time investment. But it, make no mistakes, it is a time investment. So that person doing that, much respect for you. But we're seeing a lot of people that are doing that. Also hearing people saying that they're going to use Vetus to do their kind of, figures that they can't really find or can't afford, like a Romulus. They're kind of doing their version of Romulus. I've seen people do really, really cool stuff where they get what almost looks like an identical figure for their collection by using readily available parts. Because again, that's one of the beauties of Mythic Legions, right? Is it reuses all these parts. So you can kind of mash up your versions of these characters if you can't afford the official ones. Of course, it's always nice to have the official ones, right? So even just adding that blue to it, it really stands it out as different from the gargoyles I've done in the past. And I'm really, really enjoying this. This is looking a lot of fun. I think I'm actually going to hit it with a lighter blue after just to see what that does. And just because it's fun to keep pushing, seeing what happens. Now, I'm doing this live on the air for entertainment purposes. A lot of times, what I do is I do like to keep pushing things, and it's finding that point where what's that point between too much and not enough. I want to find. We're always striving as artists and as creators for that point. One thing I find helpful is put it down for a while. Like, I know we all love to get through these projects, but I find that I do some of my most creative work when I approach things with a fresh set of eyes. Putting something down, and can be hard sometimes because we're all busy, right? And this is, none of us are customizing full time for our jobs. So sometimes when we have a few hours on our schedule that's available, we want to maximize that time, right? So we're like, oh, I'm going to get these customs done. I've had this idea in my head. I've got 2 hours or 3 hours tonight. I'm going to bang through this. Um, be careful with that, because sometimes I have found, at least for myself, that I will literally be so focused on one idea or one direction that I can't see the other possibilities that are in front of me. And when I come back to it, so I'm just hitting the edges. Like, I love just after I've put that first base on, coming back and just really focusing on where the edges are. But I love to come back after the fact with a fresh set of eyes. Give it a day, give it 2 days, give it a week, even if you can afford to. You've got the discipline to do so. But I like to come back and look at it with fresh eyes, because that, I find, is sometimes where I come up with my most creative ideas. It's also one of the reasons, talking about maximizing the time you do have, why I'm often working on a few projects at once, because I don't want to be tempted to say, well, I've got 2 hours right now, I got to make use of this. I'm going to keep pushing this to a point, even though I feel like I should let it sit for a little. If I'm working on multiple things at once, I won't feel like I'm wasting time. I can put it down and say, you know what, I'm going to come back to this later, and I'm going to work on something else. So that's just something that works for me. Maybe that helpful tip will help you. All right, so I'm going back. So Dark Lair is actually on. It says I need to do that Venus Magnus swap. So good. Justin saying, I love your paint dish that is covered in all different paints you've used. Yeah, I actually dig that too. And I actually do clean this every once in a while. I will, and it's super fun to do. I'll take a sculpting tool, and once the paint's dry, I'll actually like dig it out, and it's all these like scallop pieces that are nice and smooth. It's almost like if you've ever melted crayons. That's kind of what it looks like. But yeah, Justin, I actually think that's a lot of fun too. I dig doing that. Sergeant saying I got my Krampus last week and I love him. Okay, just going through this, all the comments here. One of the best things about Mythic Legions is the possibility for amazing LBCs. I agree completely. And I especially love when LBCs and pop-in swaps get you excited and get you the confidence to try other stuff, because you would be amazed at what you can do with just a minor little bit of work above and beyond just swapping parts. So Will White is saying Romulus and Pixis are planned. So Pixis is a good one. I mean, Pixis is a Mercurian and he's a skeleton. So that's one thing I'm seeing tons of people do with the Vetus figure, right? Is they're swapping skeleton limbs onto that figure. Even within this wave, you can take the skeleton upper arms and upper legs from, say, the tibius, and you can put that actually on the Vetus. The one thing you will have to address is the the arm armor. So on the skeletons, and I gotta find a skeleton here. On the skeletons, they all have this upper armor that's on the arms. It's actually just glued in. If you can pull it off, but there's a little like indentation in the arm. So you can't just use those arms flat. I've done it. I've seen other people do it where they use a little bit of sculpting compound to fill that in and then sand it down and then paint over it. So you can have bare skeleton arms, but that's certainly going beyond LBC. If you use the tibius arms, it's got like a silverish armor. That's not going to match the Vetus figure exactly. So you're probably going to have to think about how you want to handle that, how you want to paint match that. I'll be honest with you, I've never tried to paint match that reddish armor on Vetus. I saw Patrick Boyle post some options today. I know a lot of people have done it. It's just one I've never done. Vetus was one that I had a couple of them in the first wave. I prior to now haven't done many customs with the Vetus parts just because of their rarity. So this is something that I've got a number of Vetus figures in the back that I'm sure I'm going to get to playing around with. So that's a couple fun things that you can do with the Vetus figure. Next, let's look at Scaphoid. So Scaphoid, before I go to that, I've got a ton of questions here, so our comments. So let me look. I plan on getting a skeleton builder version 1 and making a tibius. Why don't you just get a tibius? Like, you're going to pay 35. You're going to pay, I mean, for a skeleton legion builder 1, you're not going to pay that much less than you're going to pay for a tibius. I would just buy a tibius if you want a tibius. Just my opinion. Faint of Heart says, I usually have multiple customs going simultaneously, and we'll just work on whatever one I'm feeling most inspiration for at the time. Agreed. Love it. I'm looking forward to the reinforcements wave. I have a bird skull from Von Berg and just waiting for a body. Well, you and everyone is excited for the reinforcements wave, I think. Otaku Zero. Do I ever mix together dry brushing and paint washes? Yeah, I do. I don't do a ton of paint washes, to be honest with you. It's just not super not my style. I have done a lot more watering down paints lately, especially to paint certain pieces. All of the bases on my mice customs that I did and the ones that were sold through Wolf King, those were all super crazy watered down grays to get those really nice smooth base coats. There's like 3 base coats on there to get that nice smooth type look. I have definitely found, especially with some of the furry characters, that dry brushing doesn't give me the look I want. So for those, I don't know if that would be considered a wash or it's just super watered down paint. That's actually something that my friend Chris Middlecamp, Hobby Lobby, told me to do. And I love that trick. It absolutely works so well for those specific things. But doing dry brush and then a wash later, I know I've done it, but I don't do a ton of washes. So yes, but not often. Would Vetus and Lord Vatyrus parts work together? I mean, yeah, I guess so. Lord Vatyrus is like a goldish bronze, so it probably would work. I mean, it's not wildly different than the Magnus colors. Magnus is gold, so it works a little bit better. But Vatyrus, I don't think it would look wildly out of place. The problem with Vatyrus is it's got purples in it as well, so it depends exactly which parts you are using. Cool. Very cool. Okay, so what's next? So Tibius, I said a lot of people are using his bones and adding them to either the Sir Owain, adding them to the Vetus figure to make an undead Vetus. That's super cool. If you do that with Vetus, then you end up with the flesh limbs, so you can do fun stuff with that as well. That Holy Knight head that I showed earlier, that is actually one. Let me bring that up. I showed that this head already on the Sir Owain. We actually did 2 versions of that. We did one that's clean and one that's dirty. They're actually different sculptures technically. It's the same base sculpture, but the dirty one that you see on the Tibius there, that one actually has a lot more texture to it. And that was one that I painted. I painted that to be really, really worn and distressed, and tried to match some of the browns that are in Tibius's armor already. The Tibius figure has all that like brown rust on his feet, so I tried to do stuff like that for the helmet as well. That's actually a piece that I really kind of dig. I admittedly painted that helmet and that head just for promotional purposes to show on legionshop.com where this is available, and I actually dug it so much that I left it. So I have a second Tibius on display with the red stripes, but I actually left this intact in my display because I thought it was really, really cool. So, lore question. Curious about Dark Templars. Were they normal Templars who became disgruntled and decided to join the Sons of the Red Star for fame and fortune? That hasn't been revealed. But I don't think that they're necessarily former Templars. I think that if you look at the website, the Dark Templars, their race is listed as various. They're mercenaries, they're soldiers. I would assume that wearing the Templar-ish colors is more of just a mockery of the other force rather than they were once actually Templars. Let's see. So people are asking about gnomes. So gnomes were actually something that we showed at the Team Wolf King special on Saturday. Those gnome parts are pieces that I designed along with my good friend Walter DeMarco of Mass Customs. They're all coming from Wolf King. Actually, Len from Wolf King is test printing the first ones now. Probably in January is when we're going to see those gnomes go up for sale at Wolf King Customs. Yeah, we're excited for those. Very excited. So I was talking about Scaphoid. So this past weekend, I posted a video here on my channel about my paint match recipe for Scaphoid. Scaphoid is a super fun figure. And I like him so much, I think, because I didn't like him at first. Okay. So Scaphoid was a figure that if you checked out the most recent episode of Legions Cast, Steven and I were talking about 5 sleeper figures in the line. for each of us. And a sleeper meaning something that maybe you weren't in love with when you first saw the pictures, and when it arrived, you were like, oh wow, I really, really dig this. Way more than you expected to. Scaphoid was definitely one of those for me. Something about the green bone skeleton. I didn't love it at first. When I got it in hand, it blew me away, like they all do. But the colors that are used, the purple of the tunic, the goldish kind of distressed armor color, the green and yellow bones, it quickly became a favorite of mine, and I have customized a ton of them. I actually imagine them sort of like ghosts. I did a whole series that I called the Ghosts of Caramore, where I imagine them similar to the Oath Breakers under the mountain in Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. So I treat them less as just pure skeletons and more as like ghosts, basically. So in that respect, I've really, really enjoyed painting different types of heads for Scaphoid. I showed this last week where a couple of the Legion Shop skull pieces, I painted those to match Scaphoid. That Wendigo is on the left, the demon skull's on the right. I actually painted the Wendigos here purple to match some of the colors on Scaphoid, which was fun. But the paint recipe that I use for this, I actually did post, like I said, here on my channel. And as part of that as well, I also painted this head. This is another head that was shown from Wolf King Customs, this skeleton head. So even just doing that, even just painting these different heads to go on Scaphoid is something that I've been enjoying doing. I've been doing that for a while. I did this one on that special too. This vampire head from Immortal Collections. So I painted that live on the show as well. And even something like that, I've done this before with skeletons, imagining skeletons as, you know, vampires, like really emaciated vampires. So instead of them being bones, they're kind of like really like the skin is almost stretched onto the bones. So it looks like bones. I think that's a lot of fun too. I like doing that. Nick saying, can I recommend a good satin sealant? I don't use any satin sealant, so not by experience, unfortunately. Um, Painting lots of different heads for Scaphoid. This is one I did quite some time ago, and this was part of that Ghosts of Caramore set that I told you about. So this is actually what I did was I took the skeleton head from a 2.0 figure. So that 2.0 skeleton soldier, I actually took that skeleton head, which is a little small. I had to Dremel out the actual head to get it to fit, but I put that on the body. I wanted the smaller head specifically to use this helmet here. So this is a helmet a lot of people you've seen use. This is ironically from a WWE Create a Superstar set. I did a whole show, goodness, probably a couple of years ago here on Mythic Conversations, literally looking at the WWE Create a Superstar line. There was a point that those things were just on clearance on Amazon, and you could get them super, super cheap. Those days are long gone. They're actually fairly expensive now. But there was an accessory pack that had some cool chest armor, a shield, a torch, and this helmet. So putting that helmet right on that skeleton, I really thought was kind of a cool look there. So that's an easy thing you can do with Scaphoid, is just painting different heads to match, painting different armor if it's a helmeted head to match. I think that is a ton of fun with that figure. And I'm seeing a lot of people do it. I saw one person actually on the Cabal that did something where there's a spider skeleton head that we have at Legion Shop that I painted to match this. And he put that head on the figure. And what he did was he had an extra Scaphoid, and he did the trick where if you take Scaphoid's arms, or really any 1.0 arms, and he actually plugged the arms into the back ports. So those back ports where the armor goes, you can plug the arms right into those arm ports. So if you've got multiple arms, if you've got a figure with the two arms here, you can put two arms in the back, and he kind of created like a four-armed character doing that. So that's a fun little trick that you could do there. You could also use the back adapters if you wanted to use the armor as well. The problem is if you use the back adapters, they come more out of like the center of the back versus the shoulders. So I think that looks kind of cooler. But yeah, that's what he did. And you can kind of get the sense if you had the second arm here as well. That's a fun thing that you can do with any of these figures. If you want to make a four-arm type character, that's what you can do. I mean, there are four-arm torsos. Walter DeMarco did one that it's, kind of longer, kind of Goro style with the two arms at the top, two arms kind of more at the rib cage. But if you don't have one of those torsos, doing that little trick where you put them in the shoulder blades is fun as well. Yeah, forearms plus the spider head. That's exactly what he did. The Spartan vampire head from Wolf King. I think that's actually, you might be talking about the Legion Shop one. So Legion Shop JV has the spider, the vampire Spartan head. That's actually one that I designed. I sketched that up, and that was sculpted by Immortal Collections, assuming we're talking about the same one. Okay, very, very cool. I'm thinking about doing a Gladiator Magnus with a Vetus body and an eye patch. That sounds cool. So what else do I have here? Obviously there's Bryophytus. I'll get to him in a minute, but let's go back to our figure. Let's look. So this is where we are right now. And like I said, I've got this kind of bluish stone look going. So I wonder if let's go back here. Let's go back and look at our thinker photo again. So yeah, this one, it's definitely got some lighter parts. It's almost got some green in it. Now, I don't really have any greens with me here, but I am going to put a little bit of this lighter blue. I'm just going to see how this looks. Just a little bit. Really, really going to dry this one off. It's so subtle that it doesn't stand out that much from the other ones, but you can add a little bit. Yeah, this is cool. So I just added a little bit to the face there. I don't know how that's gonna actually show up. So you can see right around the face there, I added a little bit of that. So I think I'm going to concentrate this on the edges of things. And now I just put too much. So I just put a little bit too much on his knee pad there. Whoops. And that's okay. A little bit too much, just give it a rub. Just rub it right off, rub it right in. You're fine. Again, that's why I love doing stuff like this, because the margin for error is error. The margin for making mistakes is large. Very, very large. One thing I love to do with these, I love to paint those 3 holes in the back and actually put the paintbrush and drag it down. And what it does, it gives it that kind of look that you see there, where it looks like stuff's like leaking out of those ports, those holes. That always looks cool. The one thing always bummed me out about the Vetus character is he doesn't come with pauldrons. One of the few ones that doesn't. And it's such a cool armor color that I always wished that he had come with the pauldrons. Really, I like the Vetus character without the pauldrons. It gives him a little bit of a different look, but I think I would have liked them just from a pop and swap and customizing standpoint. So this is cool. I've never painted this before. I've never done this type of a stone type piece, and I'm liking how it's coming out. Like, this is one of those projects I get excited for this, because like I did that first coat and it looked cool, and then I did the second coat and it looked cooler. And every time I put more on, I'm digging it more. One thing I will tell you is that in a real, if I wasn't doing this live on the air, I probably would have had this figure still disassembled. I probably wouldn't have put it all together because if you've noticed, I've had to like move the arms and stuff to like get under them. And there's parts that I legit can't get, like some of his torso under here. If I pop this apart, there's going to be a rim around the bottom of his torso that doesn't have all of these paints because they're covered by the waist piece. It's not a huge deal because once I display them, I'm going to display them like this anyway. But in a normal setting, I probably would have it all in pieces. I put it together for the sake of being able to pick up one piece and paint it on the show, as opposed to having to deal with, lots of little pieces. Like, oh, I'm going to paint his hand. I figured that would be much, much more of a pain. I haven't done anything on the inside of the shield, so I'm just going to give that a little bit of paint in there just so it's not so plain. Same thing here, but just hitting the edges and pulling down, you get a little bit of that kind of smudgy type feel. Smudgy type feel there. Spear as well. One thing I encourage you to is if you're painting things like stone, look at some stone. Like go out there, not only photos, go out there and look at the type of stone you're trying to paint. That's always helpful. If you're painting anything organic, look at those organic things that you're actually trying to replicate. No substitute for the actual pieces themselves. Put these pieces together. And sometimes when I paint, like when you paint a piece like this, you'll notice if you move the limbs, you'll see a little bit of like the base piece, not even the black, but a little bit of like the flesh color. Hit those areas hard with the paint to cover that up, and it works really, really well. So, I mean, what do you think? How's that looking? I think that looks pretty darn cool, right? And that was just something that we did live on the show. Super, super easy. Couple coats of dry brush. I'm probably going to let this sit for a while and I'm going to come back to it to see what other details I might want to add to it. But even as is, I'm actually kind of digging this guy. And it's something, like I said, that I imagined quite some time ago. I imagine when I first saw the test shots, I imagined them as actual statues. That was one of the reasons, one of the things, not excuses, but one of the ways I justified buying the test shots. I'm like, oh, I can imagine them. I just dropped it. I can imagine them as a bunch of statues. I can have like a garden of statues. I do still have a number of test shots, and I don't know that I consider them statues, but they look darn cool. So, but yeah, I like this guy. I'm digging how he looks. I'm digging those blues. That's a lot of fun. That was fun. So the last one we're going to talk about is Bryophytus. You know that I've already done a custom on this one. I did my forest flare custom. Let me bring that up here. So this was some custom parts that I created. The head on the left, the forest flare head, that was created by, I sketched it. I drew up that crazy character. I wanted something that I couldn't imagine somebody else would think to do. So I was like, well, I'm going to do a stump that's got some like tentacles coming out that are really thorny vines. After the head was done by Tristan at Immortal Collections, I was like, okay, I need more parts. So the feet, the hands, and the back piece from this kit were all done by Walter DeMarco, and these were all printed by Noble Bear Customs. You can see the full kit on the left. On the right, you can see it with just the Bryophytus head, and I think that looks really cool as well. Those parts are available also at Legion Shop. additionally, we're going to be putting up all of the individual pieces. So right now you had to buy the full kit of all the pieces, but you're going to be able to individually buy the hands and the feet and the head and all that stuff. But some other cool stuff that I've seen recently. So the first one I want to look at here, and this is not using an All-Stars 4 figure, but it's a companion piece, I guess, to Bryophytus. And this is someone named Fabian's Finest Creations, Doug Dollmaker. I've seen, go by both of those names. But this is one that was done where flocked this kind of like lichen dwarf type character, really, really similar to the flocking on Bryophytus. I mean, it's probably a different material, but it's got a similar kind of presence to Bryophytus. I love this figure so much. Super, super cool. So even thinking beyond just the actual All-Stars figures, the idea of creating other figures that pair with them, I think is super, super cool. I've seen Fabian's Finest Freaks doing a bunch of these, a bunch of different flock pieces, and every time they show one, I'm just blown away. Totally, totally dig it. I also saw this Bryophytus custom that I thought was worth sharing. Let me find it. Okay, where is it? Nope, I don't see it. So let me go back and bring it up. Mustn't have opened it up. Okay, here we go. So this is one that was posted by someone named Rich Masuda. I have to assume that this is a dye job. I mean, I'm looking at this and it looks like I can see a little bit of green still there. So I don't think this is painted. I feel like this might be dyed. Whatever the case, I think it looks great. It almost looks like mud to me. It almost looks like a mud orc type character. But I saw that and I'm like, bravo, people thinking outside of the box, people thinking about different ways that they can alter these figures. And I mean, that looks like a totally different character right there on, between the one on the right versus the one on the left. So totally, totally digging that. So my goal tonight was just to show some possibilities, to show some things you can do. And again, some of these are super easy. This thing, for as many people have reached out to me and said, that is awesome, I'm totally doing that. I imagine this as a fully armored Mercurian type character. This is simple. This is pop and swap. It's taking two figures and combining the parts. Really, really easy. Doing something like this, not much harder. Tiny little bit of paint, swapping parts, making a skeleton knight. Super, super easy to do. Follow my paint recipe and you can add some different heads to Scaphoid. Or you can get crazy and do stuff like you just saw there, flocking whole new figures, changing the color of the flocking. There's a ton of stuff you can do with these figures, whether it's simple or whether it's easy. And that's one of the cool things about the All-Stars waves. The All-Stars waves, they're super popular with fans. Fans absolutely love them. People that are newer to the line, and when I say newer to the line, this is not only for people that have just come into the line in the last year. These are people that maybe were like, dude, I've been in the line for 4 years, but 7 years ago when Mythic Legions 1.0 came out, I wasn't around, so I don't have a Vetus, I don't have a Tibius. So it really appeals to lots of different fans, and even people like myself, getting us another shot at these figures. I said that I had not customized Vetus in the past because it was too expensive a figure. I had 2 of them in my collection, but I didn't want to rip either of them apart. I had the idea to do this years ago, but I didn't want to I was originally going to do it with parts from the Gold Knight Legion builder. I didn't want to break one of my existing figures down. So there's a lot to be said for being able to get access to these figures again. One of the things that is challenging is if you look at some of the newer Mythic Legions figures and all of those new body parts, the new library, that is the one downside to All-Stars is a new wave like Poxus gives us not only new characters, but it gives us new body parts for the library. And you've already seen what the studio does with new body parts, with new library parts. They can create even more new stuff. So All Stars doesn't give any of that, doesn't infuse any of that into the line. So there is a downside to it, but it is super popular and it's wonderful for stuff like this being able to customize. Fabian's Finest Freaks is actually on the show and says, thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, the Lich and Orc army is growing fast. Super cool. Can't wait to see what else you do with those. Will White saying, yep, Zombie 13 did a fully armored Mercurian, a fully armored Deltagar. Yep, I've done one of those as well. I took the cheap way out. So Eric actually did the green armor color. I didn't go that far. So I did this one years ago where I used a King Bromden torso and I paint matched the green centerpiece there. But trying to paint the whole body green like Eric did, he did the pauldron too. He absolutely killed it. But yeah, fully armored Deltagar, super, super cool. I love what Zombie did with that. People are already laying out their All-Stars 5 wish list. Vote Thord, Gorthok. Awesome. JV saying, I'm hoping to see sculpted cloth arms and legs for 2.0 down the road. Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gotten the 1.0 ones in hand yet because those were introduced in the Alithia wave with the Valak and Lord Bardrick figures. Super excited to get those, and I agree with you, JV. I would love to see those as well. That's one of the things, I talked about this last week in my wish list a little bit. Lighter armor type characters, cloth pieces for rogues and stuff. Totally on board with you. Rooster, I don't think you're going to see the Rooster. So that's kind of the show that I had tonight. I've got a few minutes left. If anyone wants to hit me up with some questions, keep your eyes open for this guy. Once I finish him up, I will certainly post it on my Instagram and you can see what the final results look like. But already with where he stands, I'm kind of digging this. I will give you a little preview of it next week. So next week I will be on the show and it will be the final Mythic Conversations of 2021. So I thought that it would be a lot of fun to just take a step back. I wanted to do this tonight because I've had a number of episodes that really weren't focused on customizing. They were more focused on conversation and topics and stuff. So I knew that next week was going to be a discussion type show. So this week I wanted to do some customizing to make sure that remains an important part of what we do here on the show. But next week it's going to be conversation. We're going to look at 2021. This has been an amazing year. When I actually wrote down all of the Legions and Four Horsemen Studios related things from 2021, I was a part of all of them and I was staggered by how much there was. It blew me away to actually see it as a list. So I'm super, super excited to talk about that with you next week. But it's such a big topic, I can't do it alone. So joining me once again will be my good friend, Lord Stephen Bashotti. He will be here. He will be joining. Together, we will break down 2021, look at the year we just had, the year in review, talk about everything that excited us throughout the year, and hopefully look forward to 2022 and what I guarantee you is going to be an amazing year for Four Horsemen Studios. So with that, let's see. Any comments or questions here that I need to address before we call it a night? Only part this wave is missing for me is the Gorgo helm. Yeah, it's a pretty popular piece, though. You see that quite a bit. Can we get an on-the-spot AS4 pop and swap? They're all in back. I don't have anything here to really pop and swap with. I'm looking at the stuff on my table, and there's nothing here that will make a really cool Pop and swap. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Curtis. Eugenius, thank you as well. Thank you for thanking me. Merry Christmas to you and your family also. Tell Chris to go on vacation. He's answering my customer support email instead of getting merry and bright. Next week is a big week for customer support. A number of people I know have sent customer support messages to the studio between the holidays and the sheer volume of stuff that has been going out over the last few months. They've definitely been incredibly busy, but I'm being told that those customer service requests have been received. They are being addressed, so look for that. Justin saying, would I ever do a show with Nikki? I've done a couple of shows with Nikki, actually. If you check back my back catalog, I've had Nikki on the show a few times. So, and I'm sure that I'll do it again. I've known Nikki since the very, very beginning of the line, and she's one of my dearest friends and someone that continues to blow me away and influence me. So I'm sure I will have her on again before you know it. Yeah, so someone's saying, check out the McFarlane Multiverse Demon. Yeah, there's also almost like an evil looking Shazam character. They're like crazy clearance on Amazon right now. Look like really good fodder pieces. JV doing my job for me, saying slippity slap that like and subscribe button, yo. Thank you, man. I never remember to say that. I say it on my short videos, but I never remember to say it on this one. Am I going to eat one of those hot tortilla chips with Chris? Well, I'm here in Rhode Island and Chris is in Jersey, so probably not. But who knows? I'll be that back there before you know it. Very cool. We need those pieces you previewed on the Wolf King stream. Yeah, they're literally in progress now. Actually, I mean, I will tell you that the gnomes and the flying fox, those are both being printed right now. The goal is to have those available in the next sale of new stuff, which will probably be January. So look for those very, very soon. I think with the gnomes, we're probably going to do the young gnome and the tinker gnome head first, and then hold the garden gnome back till the sale after that, because we don't want to put out too much at once. We do kind of want to stagger it a little bit. So that's I think the plan. I am also working with Walter. We're going to be, I haven't even told him this yet. So if Walter's watching this, he's like, oh, great, more projects. I've heard a number of people ask for additional hands for the mice and for the gnomes, especially like gesturing hands and casting hands. So that is on my list as well. Additionally, the mice have been wildly popular. I've got some ideas for some additional characters to work into the mice set. So needless to say, I have no shortage of ideas. There's going to be a ton of cool stuff coming. But the stuff that you saw that was premiered or teased on the Wolf King holiday special, that will be here very, very soon. Very cool. So with that, it is 9:02. I am going to call it an evening. My wife is upstairs cooking gingerbread, and I'm not a huge gingerbread fan, but I got some really good gingerbread in Germany a few years ago, and I'm hoping that this gingerbread stacks up. Don't know that it will, but I'm going to try it. So I'm going to go eat some gingerbread. I'm going to make merry because it is Christmas. Thank you very, very much for all of you for joining me this evening. Please, whether you are religious and you celebrate the holy aspects of the holiday, whether you are not and you just enjoy the season itself and you know everything about it, have a Merry Christmas, have a happy holidays, whatever it is that you do. Please be safe. It is still a very scary time out there with COVID and everything. I know that a lot of people didn't get together with family last year and they were looking forward to this year, but there is stuff to be worried about. So please, I want to see all of you here in subsequent weeks. Take care of yourself this week. Have a good time. Have a Merry Christmas. I will see you all next week for the year in review. Good night, everyone. Merry Christmas.